Upstairs?
Where?
Up? Here? Hello,
Get my wheels.
Very good. This is the place you're going to sit. It's already live on YouTube. We just do it on live, so don't say anything that you don't want to the public.
Yes.
So
This is the code where
yeah, you can put it in here. Right. How was your day?
Good. I'll turn my phone off.
If you want, you can do the live on your phone or something like that. Yes, Ingrid, you probably know work. A lot of people know work.
Probably minutes.
You got daughters, have you?
Have I got daughters?
Yeah.
I do have daughters.
They go, which school they go?
Oh, they've all left
Grown
home.
up? Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh well, not late then.
Thank you for international playlist, Ingrid. Cool.
Which way do I sit? Do I turn this way?
So you'll be from here you're going on YouTube, from here you're going to Instagram, and from here you're going to Facebook. And when this is ready, you need to go on here.
Can I go a little bit lower?
Yeah, absolutely. You can change the seat if you prefer the other chair.
It's just I've got massive grooves on this. And I do.
Make it right.
Can I make it lower? How do I make it lower?
I think this is already low. And try to press on it again. Great already. Like that. Is it good?
That's better. The plan was to lose weight before Christmas, but that didn't happen.
That's all right.
It's not a good time to try and lose weight.
Beautiful sunny day.
So here you can see yourself.
Oh, right.
Yeah. I'll ask you to press this button when this starts.
What button?
You see there's a button.
That one?
Yeah. The live button. Yeah, the live button. And so press that one. The voice. Or maybe you want to display it.
That's right.
Yeah. That's under you see it?
Yeah.
How would you like me to introduce you? The representative of Taranaki Multi Ethnic Council and founder of Biography
Food stalls.
Coordinator.
I'm the owner, director, and chief editor of Biography. And I am the food source coordinator for Multi Ethnic Extravaganza, Taranaki Multi Ethnic Extravaganza. And I am representing the Multi Ethnic Council.
Yeah, I think I'll say that you're representing Multi Ethnic Council,
Yes.
and all of this detail we can talk through. So you're founder and director, right?
Yeah, founder, if it's like a trust, it's not like it's just, yeah. But you can say that.
You
And
sound like
editor.
you've been here a long time, but I can hear a little bit of Dutch.
Yeah.
How long?
Since 1988.
Ah, that's a long time.
Yeah. So, yeah. What is it now? 35 years in May.
Wow.
Pretty crazy, eh?
You've been back a few times?
No, never.
Oh, really? Wow,
Actually,
that's
we back, and
remarkable.
it's funny because I saw it on TV where they asked this girl if she'd been back to the UK in some deserted sort of place, and she's like, no, never. And I thought that's literally what I always say.
Yeah. See, that's quite. I would have thought that was quite unusual for an immigrant to not return
Oh,
even once.
well, I've just never been interested in going back.
Well, that's fair enough.
I mean, I like it here.
Where are you from in the Netherlands?
Eindhoven, which is the southern part. Eindhoven is in the province of North Brabant, which is North Brabant.
Near Riga?
Breda, yeah, that's not too far away.
Pretty
Half an
sure
hour
I've been
probably.
there. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Been all around there.
And Eindhoven is like the redesign capital of the Netherlands.
Exciting. There's lots of people from Netherlands in here.
Yeah.
I know several.
There's a lot of Dutch immigrants in New Zealand, full stop. And was that the war, after the war?
Yeah, my grandparents came here after the war.
Assisted immigrants to get away from the destroyed.
Well, my granddad really wanted to leave. My grandmother didn't really, but he did, and she really always wanted to go back. Oh no, he wanted to go back. She wanted to stay here because the climate was better for her arthritis and things.
The Dutch, obviously the Germans invaded Holland. Did the Dutch fight with the Allies?
Oh, press the button.
Oh, that's good.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the most friendly studio on the Most FM. It is Taranaki Foodies with Hawkeye Bistro and Bar, the tastiest food show on the Most FM. It's Melina Williams and Warwick Foy in the studio, and today we have an amazing guest. She's very interesting, she is beautiful, she's clever. Ingrid van Amsterdam, founder and director of Biogreview, representative of Taranaki Multi Ethnic Council. So for those of you who would like to peek behind the scenes, we have a live on Facebook group, which is called Taranaki Foodies. Also, we have a live on YouTube and on Instagram. Please follow all of our channels. And of course, give kudos to Ingrid because she is present on all of these platforms and much more. Hello, Ingrid. How are you?
I'm very well, Melina, and Happy New Year to you both.
Happy New Year.
So yeah, happy to be here.
Such an interesting playlist. How about we listen to the first song?
Which is?
The Texan by the Warren Brothers. For me, but and what are the same sound because for my ear it sounds the same. So it's amazing how many times I said something like Wi-Fi. That's not how work understands me. It's probably just they do with it.
So what I was asking, so the Dutch fought alongside the Allies, did they?
Yeah.
And so what happened when Germans invaded the country? Did they surrender, or did they continue to try and fight?
I'm actually not 100% sure whether they surrendered or not. I don't know whether they did, but Eindhoven, which is where my mother lived, and she was one of 8 children. So they lived in Eindhoven, and Eindhoven was the most bombed city in New Zealand. It had so many craters in the city. It was really devastated. And so my mother, who was about 5 at the time, she was 5 in 1940. She and her brother, they would go around and also find the English soldiers that would be in a camp nearby, and they would they would give them cigarettes and chocolate. But in the nearby craters from the bombings, there would be like leftover food that they would throw out, and they would go and basically scrounge around and scramble for food, or they would eat grass and celluloid and stuff like that.
It's remarkable that she had those memories.
And the other thing is really interesting. And one day, this English officer came around who found out these kids who basically aimed his gun at them to get. He didn't want the kids around in the camp. Whereas the soldiers were really friendly because they couldn't get kids of their own. But next door to the house where my mum lived, there was, and across the road, there was a house occupied by German soldiers who lived next door, and across the road from their house was the German officers who lived. And the interesting thing was the soldiers figured out that there were children next door, and they would always give them food.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was really nice actually of them because they also had families.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You get this out of your face.
So it wasn't really war, and from person to person,
Yeah.
but it was just something everybody had to
All
do.
wars are the same. It's always horrible
It's a
things,
game.
death,
Terrible,
rape,
eh?
death,
Yeah.
whatever comes with it, they're all the same.
Yeah.
And
Gives me goosebumps actually just talking about it.
It must have been just so scary for. We can't imagine. We can't imagine how terrifying it must have been.
Yeah.
Well, so we're going to talk a little bit about Extravaganza, and after the second song, we're going to talk slightly about the food that you brought today.
Yeah.
Ah, we're going to try some veg food. Exciting. But in general, it's just like exposing people to your food is a great privilege, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's really amazing. We did discuss what I don't want to discuss. Private life or political views. Are you pretty?
The only thing I would want to discuss is my ex-husband, but otherwise everything.
Yeah. But it's okay. Maybe we're going to skip it too much of the history.
Is he around?
Just not to
Is
discuss
he
food.
Oh, sorry.
And you do get asked questions.
The thing is, if you had, I never would have thought to ask you about your husband. Mention it makes me want to ask.
After the show. Welcome back to Taranaki Foodies with Hawkeye Bistro and Bar, the tastiest food show on the Most FM. It's us, Alina Williams and Warwick Foy, your local foodies, broadcasters, and, in my case, selfie takers. And we have an amazing guest today, Ingrid van Amsterdam. She joined us as the representative of Taranaki Multi Ethnic Counil and founder and director of Biogreview. And a lot of people know you, Ingrid, because your face has appeared in a lot of situations, interviewed a lot of people. Tell us about the project Biogreview.
Well, that's really interesting because currently, I've been obviously going through some major changes. Bioreview's we've been absolutely on a roller coaster of producing a regular magazine, which is really full on, and then quite ignorantly, I thought that COVID wasn't going to affect us whatsoever, and of course, I was completely mistaken. And our company we used for printing our magazine actually closed their printing division for us, and I was already like really hanging in there by that time. And I thought this has to be a sign, and also physically I was actually suffering because it was, I was doing so much, in the background, like basically running the show on my own, but there were lots of teams in the background as well and other companies, that I worked with, and my writers, and so, yeah, it was so full on, and anyway, the printing division closed, and for me, and my health was suffering, I couldn't sleep. I could sleep, but I didn't have time to sleep. It was just so exhausting, and I was really burnt out at the end. And then so in April, May, I decided that actually now it's time to stop. We've had 12 months of Biogreview and print. So that was for me, the sort of the cue to actually stop there with print. So my writers still continue to write June July stories that I worked on, and then after that I had to let them go, unfortunately. But I'm still in touch with them. I'm actually meeting up with some next Friday, which is really good. And I met up with my piano writer from Portland a few weeks ago before Christmas, so that was really, really cool. And yeah, really, I got some really nice friendships out of that, so really happy. And now, yeah, we're just moving forward. I've had like 6 months sort of like time to recover. I've also had COVID in the meantime, which it took me about at least 3 months to get over. So I've only just maybe a couple of weeks felt like I'm recovered. I have recovered, I hope. So that's good, but I've had time to visit family over Christmas and things. Now it's the time to move forward again, and so I really want to focus now more on the student stories, which I did start last year, but then with the whole border change and everything, I haven't really gone back to it. But now the school year is starting again, so I'm hoping to, attract schools again and share migrant stories and ethnic experiences, even if students, doesn't matter what level, they are, whether they're high school or university, if you have experiences with migrants or Maori heritage or anything, I'd love to hear from you. Doesn't matter where in the country you are. So we do that, and and there are other things in store as well, but I won't reveal that just yet.
I remember the launch of Biography. You already had a website and videos and blog about the migrant stories, and it was quite bright as well because your angle is slightly different. It's more narrative, and sometimes you take a topic which is actually quite fresh and questionable. I remember you've done that.
What do you mean by questionable? Because that's maybe not the word.
Maybe this is my English, but you have several views on the same topic, and I remember the stories were very analytical and from different points of view you opened it up. And someone told me that it's the only one magazine in the world which shares migrant stories, and here it is within Taranaki. Quite amazing.
That is really amazing. And actually, it was about a couple of months ago now, I actually was approached by a Mexican company who were researching a topic, and they found my overview, and they emailed me, and they were just so amazed by it because she said this like nobody else in the world does this. So that's really good. So I hope we will keep in touch and do more work.
I'm just looking at the website, biography.com. The stories, and it's just fascinating. I see there's a bio on Ming Fun, who is our race relations commissioner.
Yeah.
There's something about Basil, the black-backed seagull. There's something about World Heritage Sites, something about the astonishing world of Dunbar Slowdale shares, etc., etc.
Yeah, so it's quite topical and quite a wide variety of topics. But every article, every story relates back to culture, whether that's historical or in the present or in the future even.
I remember the story that you said about females in the Middle East, and there's so much information there. It was amazing. And it's interesting because every writer brings something of their own, but as an editor, you have to have a direction and a very clear path. The writer have to kind of follow because strategy and then technical approach and other things. So obviously it was your baby, your idea, which came to fruition.
Absolutely, and so I made clear that my writers were, understood the philosophy of biography, and of course I didn't edit on my own. I have Philippa Hadlow, who also edited, so you co-edited those stories.
And visual, you also had really good visuals, photography, and also this little like cartoonish.
I was really lucky with the material that my writers supplied because a lot of it was their own photography or own images, and then I had Charlotte Goodland who did the cartoons in every issue, and that's just lovely. And it's actually nice because of just over the last few days I've been going through every magazine and looked into every story, and actually it just makes me really emotional going through that again. And it's because there are times when you run a business, there are times when you wonder why you do stuff. It can be very hard, but and then it's so worth it.
You just had a nice little Taranaki moment there, Ingrid, that you might not be aware of. You mentioned writer and editor Philippa Hadlow.
Yeah.
And her husband is a stalwart, most of them person going way back.
Is he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I
He
didn't
used to have
know
a show. He used to do this show.
That's a
Oh.
small world.
He used to do the food and
Well,
wine show.
Philip, because I know Philip very well.
Yeah. So there you go.
But it's amazing, like Faisal, who is the local chef, and he's a very articulate person. He can speak all day, lots of other things. And he brought a lot of personality within there, which is really interesting as well. So yeah, and we're all proud of you. But as a person who works in marketing and publishing in Ukraine, I know how harsh the business is. The deadlines are like crazy.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Deadlines are very hard, and especially when you demand so much from the writers and it has to be done, at the right time. There are many stories in a magazine. We run a magazine from like 84 to 108 pages, and it's just really hard work.
And it's always a balance, whether you do editorial as advertising or you just choose the story that you want the world to know. So you didn't have a lot of advertising.
Well, no, like virtually no advertising. So it was completely self-funded, and that's how passionate I am about it, and I still am. So I'm actually going to enter the T4P Media Awards with one of my stories. So that will be revealed hopefully soon. That would be really exciting. It's actually organised by the Asia Pacific Broadcasting Union and UNESCO. So, and they're all about, diversity, and it's T4P stands for Together for Peace. So that's the theme this year, but it's also about the environment. And so we completely sort of vibe with that. Those awards.
So timely.
Yeah, so I mean, that would be so nice to get some recognition. That would be amazing if that happened. But of course, there are going to be hundreds of entries.
Yeah.
I used to do a school magazine. I've done a lot of school magazines in my time, and we would literally cut and paste the articles. And sometimes we were given handwritten material, and we would take it up to the typing class, and the kids would type them up for us. This was before that,
Wow.
the computer era. The question is, how were you doing your layout and your publishing, and how hands-on were you, or was it the printing that did most of it?
So ultimately, what you saw with the finished product was my decision under my direction. But I had a company, TGN Creative, who did my design and layout for me, but then it was still up to me to change things if I want to change, to say, I want this here. So what actually happens is there's like a live document that we work with. I upload all the stories, so that TGN can receive them, and then there's basically like a live Word document where I write instructions for the designer. I want this story here, I want these categories here, I want these stories here, I want these photos here. Everything is described for them so they know where to put it. And then once they do it, they use their own creative talents to make it look amazing. And then I still need to proofread everything, So that actually is quite time consuming as well. And for 2GM, it was really interesting and exciting, an exciting project too, because they've never actually done such a big production before. And smaller, booklets and brochures and things. So it was so different ballgame, but we all learned so much.
How many copies did you publish?
So the printed version, I had 10 magazines. So it was in print from May 2021 until May 2022.
And it went on not only in Taranaki, but also all over New Zealand and all over the world.
Yeah. So there were libraries all over the world that subscribed to magazines, like schools and school libraries put magazines as well. And that was actually some of it I didn't even discover until much later, how widespread they actually were, and that was really exciting to find out about. So super excited.
Library or something.
So they're all on the website. So if you were to subscribe,
all stories.
The magazines, are they?
Well, currently, I've stopped at any new subscriptions because I'm not running it as a magazine at the moment. So it's just, we've got now over 300 stories on it. But I'm currently not going to do the magazine. I'm going to work at like completely different from here on in. So, but that will be, I need to talk to a few people about that. Obviously, I don't make those decisions on my own.
Well, we are looking forward to see where it will turn into.
Absolutely. And
go.
I mean, the other thing too, actually, I'm not totally sad that it's not in print anymore because I also believe in, protecting the environment and to be eco-friendly. So digital is probably a whole lot better.
Oh, you don't look like a sad person. You look like a very happy person.
Oh, well, yeah, very happy.
I'm going to listen to the second song, and while we're doing it, we might try some food that you brought. Ziti Buoni by the Eurovision winners in Meneskin. Did I pronounce it correctly? Is it Meneskin?
I don't know.
I watched them last year.
Yeah, they're at the Eurovision song
Yeah.
contest. Festival, yeah.
So, it's nice that you have included some Italian ones. Do you have some Italians provided?
Well, we don't have Italian food, but we have gelato, which is Italian. And I thought, oh yeah, Italian ice cream, what can go wrong?
Why not?
So that's I'm looking forward to.
You want to put some food in here, or it might take whatever we can post it, wherever it's going.
So I brought some plates.
Oh, lovely.
I brought some tongs.
That looks like amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very well done.
Brought some napkins.
Where is that amazing?
Icing sugar.
Yeah, we know Faisal and we know Philippa. Do you know any of the others?
Yeah, I know Jennifer. She's also a salsa person. I know a couple of years ago we had a mutual project at the bottom.
Oh, yeah. Charlotte.
Yeah.
The Amokura Kanoho, she looks familiar.
She's from around Taranaki as well.
Yes,
So she's a Tiatiara person, and she actually was the niece of Hannah, the mural. She actually
right.
organised that project.
Oh, right.
It was her aunt, Hannah. So they need to be. So they actually have gone a bit flat. So they are apple vignettes.
Oh, it's like an apple donut.
Yes, you could say. And so this is icing sugar. And I didn't put icing sugar on it, but we couldn't actually put icing sugar on it, but we can have some plates. So we can eat some.
Is there anything you can't get here that you really miss?
I'm sure there is.
Like cheese, some of the cheeses?
No, you can get cheese at Dutch shops there. That can
there's that
you
great
cheese.
Dutch cheese shop in Hamilton.
There is Go Dutch, where they're in Auckland, Oriwa and somewhere else. Auckland, Oriwa and Auckland. So yeah, Go Dutch is there, and I'm sure I should put some icing sugar on because it looks nicer. With the icing sugar on. And it has to be served with icing sugar. And you can decide.
Yeah, it looks like a snow, and it's actually like winter.
That's right. So it's actually sorry. Yeah. So what you do? It's actually a New Year's food.
Yeah.
So that's the traditional thing about it.
Welcome back to Taranaki Foodies with Hokai Bistro and Bar. We have amazing, vibrant Ingrid van Amsterdam in the studio. She's the founder and director of BioReview, magazine that delivers stories of immigrants to the world. And also she's a representative of the Taranaki Multi Ethnic Counil. And the playlist she brought is very international. We just listened to some Texan music and at the very beginning of the show, and now it was an Italian music by the winners of the last year Eurovision. And Ingrid, is it a representative of your diverse tastes in music, or is there any other reason?
Well, I was inspired by the Multi Ethnic Extravaganza that's coming up in New Plymouth, and that'll be on the 4th of March. And we've got over 15 ethnicities that will be feeding us on the day, so that's going to be really exciting. I'm really looking forward to that.
And the person who is responsible for the food truck area. You're food truck
Yes,
coordinator.
yes, yeah. I'm the food source
When
coordinator.
did it last run? I think, didn't it run in 2020?
2020.
And there was a bit of flack, organisers received a bit of flack for that.
It was just before we went into the isolation.
Right.
The full lockdown happened literally a month after.
Oh,
So
okay.
we
really
were
late.
completely fine,
Yeah.
but there were some food stall holders that actually weren't able to come because they'd actually also
afraid.
moved out of the area. Like for example, the Malaysian carriage, was one of those. They were based in Owakura, the carriage, and they actually moved to Auckland, and and there was illness, and then the stress because at that time, people were so worried about the virus traveling. It had only just been in the news not that long, maybe a month or so, that we were all like getting bombarded with this new virus that nobody knew anything about. So I think there's a lot of paranoia, and probably rightfully so, because people did get sick.
Yeah. I remember a lot of criticism of people who arrived, and some of them were doctors, and they said they didn't have this, they didn't have that, they didn't have this, and now we all know what we need, like masks and everything. But some people, it was at the very beginning.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
actually
right,
wasn't
okay.
even aware of that. Like,
Yeah.
that never
Oh,
got back to
it's
me to
yours.
use.
Is there any stalwarts from before that that have gone out of business or that walked away from it?
Yeah, no, there are a number of businesses that actually had to quit and that are no longer there. But the interesting thing is there are also some new businesses there that actually are joining us this year. And also there are some businesses who I approached in 2019 for the 2020 Extravaganza who at that time didn't join us, but they're now here. So that's really, really good. So it's been really tough for a lot of people to run their business, and then still hanging in there and still doing well. But one big problem now is because I've had a few declines this year as well. It's just staff shortage.
Yeah,
It's
just everywhere.
How many carriages are we going to have at the Extravaganza? How many spaces?
So at the moment it'll be for the food area, and that includes the Japanese tea ceremony, which is not actually in the same zone, and also Malena's kitchen, MK spices. So they will be there as well. So there will be almost, roughly 25 to 30 stall holders that will be there.
Wow.
I predict it will be overrun.
I really hope so.
Everybody is.
Everyone's looking forward to it.
I think it will be a great success because everyone started to value events. Before we had too much and people, I shouldn't go, I'll stay at home. But now we understand the value of kind of public events and how many efforts.
Is it weather dependent? I can't remember.
Yes and no. I mean, of course, we all hope it's going to be a sunny day like last time. It was such a beautiful day. And hopefully this time again. But, people will have their own food trucks, so they're always on the cover or gazebos. So I don't think, weather shouldn't be a problem. And also, we have performances
from the covered areas.
That's right.
We will have, of course, arts and crafts. That's not my area, but and performances, and so there will be a large stage in front of the grandstand. So, and of course, that's undercover as well. And we are hoping to also include a small stage in the area next to the car park. So it's not the food stalls area. So you've got the food stalls area, which is a large paddock in between the car park and the racecourse. Then you've got another grassy area in between there, and there will be arts and crafts stores, and then you've got the large stage for performances. But also there's another smaller paddock which we can use to put a small stage on, and so we are hoping to actually attract some people that can do workshops. So I've already spoken. Because I know the person, she actually used to produce the proverbs for biography. So she's from Greece. And my friend, who is an associate professor at Massey University, and so she did research about proverbs from around the world, and she also has held Greek dance workshops. So we're hoping to have her on there too, and some other people that can. So it'll be a lot to do.
What is the date, please?
So it's on the 4th of March.
4th of March, and it's still gold coin?
It's still gold coin donation.
And I hope that the Multi still can have a present and do lives, which was Warren and Mark last time. They were taking the vibe of my Extravaganza food into the year.
That was a lot of fun, and also, we've got lots of free samples.
Oh, you will get lots of
Food is part of the job.
So tell us what we're about to eat, Ingrid, and listeners. I have taken a photograph and I will shortly put it on the Taranaki Foodies Facebook group so that you can see that. From the layman's eye, it looks like a donut.
It kind of is a version of a donut. So these are called apple beignets. And apple beignets are traditional New Year's Eve food in the Netherlands. So what happened, how that came about, because I actually never really knew about the history of it. I just knew that that's always what we did in Holland. And so even here in New Zealand, I still do it. Like, we don't really celebrate New Year's Eve here much, but like in Holland, it's a big thing, like huge.
How do you spell beignets?
Beignets, it's a French word, so it's B-E-I-G-N-E-T-S. Beignets. It's also, you could say fritters, but beignets, it's multi-plural.
Yeah, fritter, that's better than donuts.
Yeah. So I never really looked into the history of it, but of course, because I came here today, I thought I'd better look at it. So it's actually a history and why we do it. And so for me also, like, because we don't really celebrate New Year's Eve here very often or in a very small way, I thought my tradition has become to do it at Christmas. But this year again, I did it on New Year's Eve, so yeah, flexible.
Well, Christmas and New Year in Netherlands is very snowy with lots of traditions and other things.
Well, it used to be white Christmases when I was little, and then it sort of became warmer and warmer, global warming. So it's like to get a white Christmas now is a bit more rare, but we still have them. So anyway, the history of the apple beignet. Hope you like it. So I find them absolutely irresistible. Once I start, I can't stop eating them. So
there's lots of
what they are. Let me explain what they are. So an apple beignet is a cored and peeled apple, and then you cut that into slices, into thickish slices, and you put that into a beer batter. So it's basically just plain flour and beer. Wow. That's all it is, and it's really light and fluffy. The mixture. So once it's deep fried, so it's a deep fried product.
And any particular type of beer and any particular type of apple.
It had preferably a sour type apple. So I use the green Granny Smith, and it can be any beer, but I use the tiger beer.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought you would use Heineken.
Actually, I actually don't like Heineken.
Well, the Heineken that we have is not the Heineken that I remember trying.
No, it doesn't taste the same. Like everything I have found, when you're in a different country, original foods often don't taste, well, imported foods, I have to say, don't taste like they used to taste. Like, for example, one thing I really, really love as well are the what you call stroopwafels, which are basically waffles, and they've got like an apple syrup in between, and you can buy them in the supermarket. And I just never buy them because they're just neither really chewy and tough to eat, you know.
Because Heineken has really strict quality control over their product, and they can replicate exactly the beer. They can adjust the water chemistry, they can do everything. But I suspect it tweaked it for the New Zealand palate, and that's why it's different.
And I think also the ingredients sometimes vary from country to country, even if you think, oh, it's still wheat, you know, but it's still a different variety or whatever that they use, you know, like hops or whatever. It's like a different flavour. You can't help it. But anyway, so the history of the apple beignet, actually, there's a few theories on that. But one that I quite like, it's quite a lovely story, is in the Middle Ages. Well, let me start right at the beginning. So apparently the Romans around 200 BC, already had a version of what they called, well, like basically a batter, and then it was basically fried in oil, and that was like the first version of that we know about. So it's a very old food. But then in the Middle Ages, in the Netherlands at least, people started to prepare for winter, and of course oil, is oil and the other ingredients that you use for what they call apple cakes. That name later changed to apple ball. Sorry, in apple cakes they were oil balls. Because there was no apple in it. There was no apple in it. So, but they had like dried fruits like sultanas and things. So we still make oil balls as well. We actually call them oil balls in Dutch. So we serve oil balls and apple beignets. So the oil balls sounds terrible, but it's a similar mixture, a similar dough or mix. It's still a yeast or beer batter or whatever, and that's what I like to use because it just tastes so good. And because of the ingredients, it kept for a really long time, and of course over winter, and it was very sustainable. I could give you sustenance in the cold. And what happened in the period between the 11th of November and the 6th of January, the poor would go door knocking and wish people well, and in return they would be given an oil ball, and so they could keep warm, and they would be fed, and they would also keep warm. So that was actually really important, but also a lovely gesture, just from both ways, so it's quite interesting.
People stop wishing you well when they ask for money.
Well, there are different versions because there are still other people that we have other celebrations in the world that do similar things. Like you've got the Halloween thing, and there are other. For example, in the Catholic religion, for example, we would go before fasting, so it would be around early November, I guess. We would actually go. Well, I've never done any door knocking myself, but I remember if we were given sweets or loose chocolates, biscuits, or whatever, we would all keep that in a container and not have anything. So that would be our fast. And the fast then, so that would be end of January, so when carnival time came, or like sort of like before Easter, we would then stop the fast, and we were allowed to eat, and literally binge eat on chocolate and sweets and stuff.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to eat this.
There is another theory also for the apple beignets or oil balls, and apparently there was a goddess, and don't ask me why because I didn't have time to research it, but a goddess called Perchta, I think. She would try to slice people or horses' bellies open. And if you ate oil balls, it would be too greasy, and so the sword would slide off, and she couldn't, open the bellies.
Yeah. Those are like all those old legends. They're so brutal and beautiful.
I think it was a Germanic goddess or something. Yeah.
How about we listen to the third song, and maybe you can announce what country is it from? It's Action by Chai.
And that is a Japanese song.
Awesome. Oh, that's so interesting. You know so many things, and you have many stories. Yeah. I'll ask you something after this show.
Well, I do. Sometimes I think back about my life, and I think it was definitely not been boring so far. It's definitely been really interesting at times. Yeah.
But that's the trick
unusual
of living. You have to do something that no one can take from you.
Yeah.
And because things can be. A lot of people do similar things, but certain people do unique things. Like you do. It's amazing.
You're on the what's it called, the festival?
Taranaki Multi
Ethnic Extravaganza.
Yeah.
You're on the trust.
Yeah.
And who's the chair at the moment?
So Lance Smitham is the
Oh,
president.
Lance.
So he does that.
Lance is used to be the vice president, now he's the president, and probably we need to kind of renew the conversation with the most of them because I think it's very, very suitable for the most. This event.
The other thing too, so Faisal, we spoke about him before. So he's going to interview some of the food stall holders, or hopefully he's got time to do everyone, just to do short videos, and we can then put it on our social media page.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
And so actually talked to Lance last night, and I said it would be really nice if you could also interview him at some point. He's
Yeah.
away at the moment. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I
and
know.
he wrote the food stories and biography.
He came to our show.
And he's
Yeah.
and he's lovely. He's just
Oh, he's
such a
great.
nice. Yeah.
He should be on the breakfast show in the week before.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's away at the moment. He's going to the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Auckland.
Oh, I didn't even know. Oh, he said it.
Lance is in Wellington.
Is he?
Yeah.
Has he gone away? Because
It was work engagement.
yeah. He's pretty busy out at the moment.
So I can organise that and Ingrid, you know, I can organise that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We should do some sort of event to launch it. Because I'll also talk to you about this
Yeah.
later.
So,
So it's nice. So we have Texan, we have Italian, we have Japanese music.
sorry about the back. I need to duck down and remind myself.
So now we're going to kind of wrap up and you can make an announcement about when it happens. That it's free for all coordination. And maybe about the sugar QR code.
I haven't the information for that.
So it's delicious.
Delicious.
Welcome back to Taranaki Foodies with Hawkeye Bistro and Bar. It's us, Anita Williams, and we're Ford, your local foodies and broadcasters, and we had an amazing guest today, Ingrid van Amsterdam. She's the founder and director of Biography and representative of Taranaki Multi Ethnic Counil, and she's also food coordinator for Multi Ethnic Extravaganza that is happening soon. We're going to wrap up the show. Ingrid, would you like to remind us when it happens and what's going on for Extravaganza?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, and to the listeners, thank you so much for listening. So we are really excited and really looking forward to having our extravaganza again this year after 3 years not being able to, or after not for 2 years. So 2020 was the last one, and now 2023 finally we're able to have it. So we're really looking forward to it. It's promising to be a successful, great event. We are promised really good weather as well. So it is going to be held on the 4th of March from 10:30 to 4:30. There will be a parade in town, and then the food stalls will be held at TSB Showgrounds. And so this is where the food stalls will be, and arts and crafts and performances and workshops. So yeah, it's going to be an amazing event. So we're really looking forward to having you there. It's a gold coin donation, so just bring your gold coins.
We're so lucky to have you and other
Yeah,
enthusiasts and volunteers to run Multi-Ethnic Council and Extravaganza because it's such a huge event, and it's I've heard that some people from outside of the region are going to come representing multicultural communities, so it's going to be good.
Yes.
It's just a standout feature of the calendar, isn't it? Or the head calendar. It's just
It's a lot of it's an event that a lot of people look forward to, that's for sure.
You don't have a lot of free events of such a caliber. Oh well, this is the end of the show. Thank you very much for listening, and please switch on any platform every Saturday at 4 p.m. Bye bye, my good materials. See you later.
See you later. This is Lisa Murray. Rest in peace.
This is Marie Presley.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, right. I love to tell myself.
Yeah.
I've been to Graceland again.
Have you?
Yeah.
No, not.
Like,
Is this Presley Parker?
when I went there,
Have you?
I just
Yeah.
stood there and just made sure that I
Yeah,
appreciated
so that one.
Okay, I'll do it then.
Have you been to the Elvis Presley Museum in Manaya? Elvis
Oh,
Museum
and Howard.
in Manaya.
Oh, that's the one in Manila.
Yeah.
I've never been
It's
to it.
just a room apparently. I haven't been to it either, but
Are you sure it's not Howard?
no, it's Manaya.
Because I know the Howard one. And that's Kevin, they call him, he calls himself KV. He calls himself KV. He's,
Yeah, I didn't know about the Howard one.
oh, it's phenomenal.
Okay.
Oh, poor old KD. He's been to Graceland 5 times.
Oh,
He's an older gentleman, so he was there during Elvis's life.
yeah.
But he never managed to meet him. He met his brother,
Oh,
or his uncle, or something like that, and there's a photo of that. But he never got to meet the great man.
Just